If the China-Taiwan conflict or in the South China Sea, if it gets aggressive, then will Europe get involved? Will it become a bigger issue than it is now?
In case of military attack by China on Taiwan, I am not convinced that there will be a coherent approach by Europe. That means European institutions and all the 27 member states when it comes to the response. I'm also not even convinced that we will be able to, let's say, launch these comprehensive sanctions the way how we did that on Russia.
It's still hesitating to say it. Forget about taking action.
I am convinced that we should actually be more open with the specific towards the risks that may emerge if we are not addressing the issue. Because I think that a certain group of European member states would probably go along with the United States, not so much based only on personal conviction, when it comes to the approach to China, but also because they see that the United States is the only garant of their security and their territorial integrity in the future, following the Russian war against Ukraine. And in doing so, there will be another bloc, of course, which is more constructive, which will try to navigate, which doesn't want to get caught in a binary world. It wants to still somehow keep the equilibrium that is right now in global affairs. And this may create a kind of bifurcation within Europe, which I'm really, really practically afraid of, because if China decides to deliver military assistance to Russia, we will end with a proxy war between Russia and Ukraine, where two new system rivals are practically helping the both sides, and where Russia will lose its global power status.
But I wanted to comment on this China. If China really wants to go after Taiwan, there's various phases. I think most likely, because you cannot just launch an attack. It's not like I take my car in the front of the house and just go. It will be visible for months and months and months because it's a massive logistic operation. But we can assume that what China could do, for example, have a military exercise around Taiwan which lasts forever and nobody can come in and out and then test the waters and see what the dynamics. But for your direct question about military assistance, the reality is we don't have the material, not the equipment in Europe. And that's actually our big problem. So I think the biggest support what Europe in that situation realistically could give is related to sanctions.
You're seeing on the sidelines, you're seeing that the US, its allies, countries of the South, they're engaged in this war of words when it comes to G20 and especially with regard to the Ukrainian conflict. Even on sanctions, though Rui says that there is a unity, even on that between Eastern European bloc and the Western European nations, isn't there any kind of a conflict or rethink or difference of opinion?
In the head of state level, the unity, at least at the moment, is very clear. And we can ask why, maybe because the moral case for Ukraine is so strong. Also with what Russia has been doing in the front, terrible things. I don't start to make a list here. It created the situations for the leaders to say something. Let's try to find a way. Let's try to discuss. It's a very, very clear. And as just recently, today, Italian Prime Minister was here from these countries, where there's very many opinions about Russia. And her message was very, very clear on that.
Yes.
And presenting like if you would go to North or Baltic to Estonia, you couldn't have different line. So Europe is very united on that.
The veil has been lifted about, and there's no ambiguity now about China colluding with Russia. Can there be any ambiguity now in all of the EU states? And, because there was ambiguity when it came to the India-China conflict, when it happened in Galwan on our borders, EU was kind of, was tiptoeing around the issue, did not come out openly and castigate China or say that this was expansionist policy of China. Now, is it going to be tiptoeing or coming straight out, or does that have to be an attack, or does it have to be military transfers? What needs to be done now?
The dynamics with China go between ups and downs. Now we are not in a hub, but I will not qualify it as something final.
Okay.
Although the Ukrainian war can be a qualitative element in this equation. I mean, if some steps are taken by China, that can represent an issue for the European member states, that's for sure.